Fantastic. Okay, well, with all that said, we do have a quorum. We have five. Let's start the meeting, which we did at 6:19. We're going to do a roll call. I'll just go through the names. Matt Gifford, Lori Jones,
Present.
Chris McDonald,
Present.
Mike Matthews, John Pinto,
Here.
Don Remsen,
Here.
Chris White, Jeff Mangles, here, present. Sorry. All right. Well, now that that's all over, any public participation?
All right, I did not receive anything via email this month, but if anybody who is attending the meeting right now would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of your screen and just state your name, address, and the agenda item that you will be commenting on. All right, it looks like there is no public comment tonight.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see. Acceptance of minutes, Lori?
Jeff, are we supposed to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm all fizzled. Let's do that. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Sorry, Lori. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As you were. Thank you, Lori. Boy,
You're so welcome.
frazzled. You see that? If it's not A to Z, I don't know what to do. All right. So minutes from last month.
Okay. Yep. So there were a couple of edits by Dr. Pinto to the minutes of July 23rd regular meeting. Amelia, can you throw those up, please? So they're really minor, but as we scroll through, the first one is right there. What existed was our attorney Sachi Carmody and not the word of. So that's added. And the next one is Straffolino was misspelled. So that's Straffolino corrected. And then the third one is right there, hauled and painted. So with those amendments, I'd like to call for an acceptance of the minutes of our July 23rd, 2025 meeting.
Okay, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll
Second.
second it.
And Chris
Thanks.
McDonald,
All in
second.
favor? All in favor? Any opposed? Great, the minutes are passed. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lori. All right. Let's see. Application Review Committee.
All right. Thank you very much, Co-Chair Mangles. I will. First item on the agenda is 108 Water Street, as I think I heard Attorney Blank had mentioned earlier. And again, this is a application that we reviewed last month, but we put on hold to receive any additional comments from DEEP. And I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add, Mr. Blank, on this application.
Yes, and so I apologize. I don't have my video working. I'm on vacation in block, and so I'm having some issues, but I can share my screen and I can hear you guys and see it all fine. So we'll kind of go how you want to do it, but we did see the DEEP memo that came in just this afternoon. I think at the last time you continued the meeting, I know you sent a formal letter to Amelia and staff saying that you hadn't had an opportunity to review the CAM memo that came from the Planning and Zoning office as well, and wanted to have an opportunity to review that. And you had a number of questions that came up for us that we now have had an opportunity to consider. So our hope was that you'd give us a few minutes to run through the CAM letter that you got from Planning and Zoning and what our comments or responses were on that, as well as on the DEEP letter. And then there's just maybe two or three other points that are brief that came up at the last meeting that we now is for. Does that work?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. So with that, I just, so again, Adam Blank of Wapsie Rosen for Spinnaker Acquisitions, the contract purchaser at 108 Water. I think we've got Christian Gonzalez from Byfield Architecture, Craig Flaherty from Redness and Mead, Matt Schuler from Race Coastal, Henry Conroy from Spinnaker. If there's anybody else on the team or any of those folks that aren't imported already, just raise your hand so Amelia can bring you over as a panelist for now. Okay, so with that, I would like to just maybe share my screen and maybe we can kind of walk through the planning and zoning memo. All right, so this was the memo from Amelia to you folks. It's dated, I think, well over a month ago. But you haven't, I don't believe you reviewed our comments to it. So the initial comment from your staff was whether we're replacing a water dependent use at the site with a non-water dependent use. And it is stated in here that we're not proposing any water dependent uses for the site. And we should modify the plan to incorporate some water dependent use. And so we wanted to just clarify that that the development does in fact call for water dependent uses under the Coastal Management Act. The one, we do have a designated water dependent use on the ground level of the office building. We'll talk about in a minute that specific space. But at the current site, there's no public access, there's no docks, no boat slips, and only a very small portion of the site's actually utilized by a water dependent use. That's the dock building. And that's going to be more than offset by the introduction of new docks, boat slips, waterfront access, and space for an active water dependent operators. Again, there's a large portion at the ground floor level of the office building for water dependent use. I know Henry and the Spinnaker team have begun meetings with varied potential tenants to use that space. We don't have a tenant lined up quite yet, so we can't tell you exactly what operation that's going to be, other than we've assuring you, and it would be part of any approval with planning and zoning, that will be a true water dependent use in that area. We've also got the boat slips for recreational use, and that is under the Coastal Management Act, a water dependent use, water-based recreational uses. And same with the waterfront docks that we're proposing. And again, under the definition for water dependent uses which provide general public access to marine or tidal waters are recognized as additional standalone water dependent uses. So we see that we're proposing quite a number of water dependent uses for the site. The next issue that came up, which I'll let Craig Flaherty address, but was dealing with Water Street sea level rise and flooding specific to Water Street. Craig, do you want to touch on that?
Sure. I think there's a few things to touch on here. The first is, everybody's aware there's some low-lying areas around a few catch basins and Water Street fronting the site that flood with some frequency. Could be with spring tides, could be with king tides, could be with minor coastal surges or strong winds out of the east. And we've been working with the Department of Public Works as part of this project to get offer to design and provide a backflow preventer to be installed at the end of the city's stormwater management system for Water Street. And that backflow preventer could ameliorate those kind of nuisance tidal flooding events that happen with some frequency and minor coastal surges. I think that's a part of it. But in terms of planning for the future, there is the Resilient South Norwalk study that the city commissioned a couple of years ago by AECOM. There's a bunch of different kind of tools they provide in that report. But one of the major areas of focus is the need over time to elevate Water Street to roughly elevation 9. That's nothing that any one application or property owner can do. That has to be a concerted effort by the city, and it'll affect, dozens or so properties, dozens of properties. But we are designing our project to be compatible with that potential future. So they're recommending an elevation of 9 in the street. We've proposed our garage at elevation 9. Our lobbies that face Water Street are all double height spaces, and the superstructure will be built such that the floor elevation in those lobbies can be retrofitted at a later date should the roadway be elevated. So that's kind of how our project and specifically is addressing both current low-lying areas, trying to resolve that, and this future idea of an elevated Water Street, which is in the city's report.
Thanks, Craig. And then the next issue, which I think is for you as well, that came up in the memo was about retaining stormwater and treating it on site.
Yeah, I mean, look, I from a stormwater perspective, I love redevelopment sites because we're going from 0 water quality available to a fully retrofitted and compliant level of water quality. There's no difference here. This proposed stormwater management system actually starts by significantly reducing the burden on the Water Street system, because right now everything from the site, or nearly everything from the site, flows that way. But we're redirecting it towards the harbor to, again, reduce the burden on the Water Street system, but only after we introduce significant water quality improvements to retain at least 1.3 inches of water. I think that the nuance in Amelia's memo talked about the fact that we said 79% of the site area would be treated by this water quality enhancement, but it's actually 91% of the impervious coverage. So the area that we're trying to treat, we're over 90%. So more than half of the area we're not treating is just landscaping. And some of those leftover areas might be the, kind of the boardwalk, towards the harbor, or little bits of the sidewalk or driveways that pitch towards Water Street, areas that just aren't practical to pick up and get back into the water quality system. But we meet the standard of the Norwalk Drainage Manual and exceed it. And this will be a fully retrofitted kind of stormwater to current codes and practices.
Thanks, Craig. The next issue that was raised was whether the on both sides of the site there are 6-foot public access walkways, and whether those were sufficient. Christian or Seelan from the architectural team, can you touch on that?
Everyone hear me? This is Seelan, Binefield Architecture. Yes, Adam. Should I bring it up? I can bring it up if you want, but they are sufficient. Just, I'll share my screen. So these are the walkways you're talking about. At the narrowest point, there are 6 feet right here, but you see they open up as they clear the raised portion of the building, and they get wider to around 15 feet. And the important thing to understand here is that even though we're creating a loop around the building with these 6-foot access at grade all the way through, the experience that we'd like people to have is actually go through the building from a grand stair that enters between these 2 brick buildings, and then delivers any person to this upper level with a view over the water. That is really the main experience for the public to access and traverse the site.
Okay. Also, the one thing I'll add is on the side of our site that abuts Sono Seafood. We did design that that 6 foot, and then the widening path towards the waterfront, we did design that so that it could easily be connected and expanded in width to access Sono Seafood. That's not our property, so we've shared our thoughts with abutting property owners, and we're hoping that they'll be interested in broadening the connection there. They would have to file a CAM application to achieve that. So we're willing. We're not sort of proposing it now, but we're certainly willing to cooperate in any effort that they make to connect to the sidewalk and widen it for better access to Sono Seafood. All right. Maybe
Stop sharing.
actually you can maybe maybe you can leave it up for a minute, Seelan.
Sure.
This is probably fine. The next, I'll just tell you the next staff comment was said that they'd recommend moving the boardwalk out of the VE flood zone. So, and I know that's probably not you, Seelan, but maybe Matt or Craig. Can
Actually, I could speak to that.
Azure, sorry. Is it helpful to have this graphic up? We can take it down if you want.
No, I think that's perfect because you can actually see in blue the flood zone line as well. Again, Azure Deeslicher with Race Coastal. Again, as mentioned in the comment letter, you know, the bulkhead, it's extremely important for the site, you know, with the connectivity to the waterfront and the water dependent uses that we're proposing, that the boardwalk be on the waterfront. You know, moving it landward into the A zone doesn't provide the function of the boardwalk that we're attempting to achieve with access along the waterfront. But as coastal engineers, well-versed in designing structures for the loads that are typically seen in the V zone, the structure will be designed accordingly for those forces. So there's no restrictions against boardwalks and so forth in the V zone, and it will be designed, you know, appropriately for those forces. And honestly, with the existing or the proposed grading plan, calculating loads, flood loads on the boardwalk, moving it back into the A zone would not necessarily change the loads that it would see under a flood condition, just because the flood zone line is in that position. We would still be seeing potentially the same loads if it were in the A zone. So it actually, in its proximity behind the bulkhead provides some additional protection to those foundations of the boardwalk. And again, it will be designed appropriately in its current location for the high hazard flood zone.
Thanks, Azure D. And another thing to note that comes up from the memo too is that, just so you know, as we're looking at this, that the building foundations, it's not so clear from this drawing, but the building foundations are located entirely in the AE zone. It's not in the V at all. And all of the habitable space here is at or above elevation 19. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So I think what's next on our list on there, I think, this is, I guess, Seelan, maybe you can stop sharing. Azure D, the next issue that came up in their memo was about providing plans or details related to the proposed reconstruction of the bulkhead wall.
So here's the existing or the proposed site plan that shows the outline of the bulkhead. And I guess you're not seeing that. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so I got 3 screens here. It's always tricky to know which one you're sharing. Yeah, so that's the plan view of the bulkhead, and then in cross section, are you seeing a cross section now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So you can actually see here in this existing cross section and then proposed where the existing bulkhead infrastructure is located. And so the new bulkhead and corresponding boardwalk will actually be located landward of the existing bulkhead infrastructure, but here's a typical cross section. And, you know, and based on where we are in the approval process and, you know, in coordination with DEEP as we enter into a permit process with them for this bulkhead, you know, this is the level of design so far. But you know, as again, similar to the boardwalk, as we would advance the project beyond the initial approval stage, we would be designing all of these structures appropriately for the conditions and the flood loads that are expected of the site.
Thanks. And Azure, can you also, the next point that came up in the memo was that we should demonstrate that the proposed boat slips are feasible given the bathymetry along the existing bulkhead and location of the channel?
Sure. Yes, we looked at that as we laid out the proposed boat slips, again, to maximize the small area that we have between the proposed bulkhead and the channel offset limit, which is here. So here's the federal channel, here's a 36-foot channel offset. So all of our docks and our boats are within that. And we're proposing that they earth bow in so that you know, they have enough depth. There is enough depth. It's not super deep water, and we do not wish to dredge. There will be some minor excavation, you know, as the existing derelict structures, piles, and so forth are removed. It will open up the space, you know, more so than exists today. But we believe there to be sufficient water depth based on the layout and the hydrographic survey that we performed, that that we don't need to dredge, and that there is sufficient water for the boats that we're showing.
Excuse me, Azure, could you explain the concept behind, I think these are stairs or steps that you have in the center of that bulkhead? And what does it lead to? Does it go right down into the water?
It does go down to the water. Perhaps our architectural team can describe the vision for that a little bit better, as it was part of the landscape. Yeah, but it's
water. I mean, if it goes about maybe 6 feet down below there, you know, if you're talking about high tide, there's no, well, anyway, to be explained, I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we do. Sure, Celine, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take
Just
that.
in terms of
I'll
elevations,
quickly
right?
share my screen.
Yeah, here's a typical cross section of through that area of coming down from the boardwalk into that stair area. But Celine can describe better the vision for that area.
Yeah, so I'm trying to share my screen. I think you have to give it up first.
Sure.
So the best way to describe it is if you know the stairs at the Maritime Aquarium from that deck, it's very similar concept.
Yep.
The idea is that, yeah, you could go down, you could touch the water, and when tide rises, it would actually just rise up across these steps.
Be able to step on the dock, or what would you?
No, you wouldn't be able to step on the dock.
So
it's separated from the dock.
So the step goes down into the water, to the substrate. Goes right down to the substrate.
Substrate to the water, you mean the surface of the water?
Substrate meaning the bottom of the, yeah. So that's going to vary depending upon the tide.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
No, well, we have it designed where there's another section of bulkhead at the toe, so it doesn't go all the way down. Again, maybe I can share my cross section, but there would be a low elevation bulkhead at the toe of it to hold it all together. So this is the main bulkhead, and if we look back at the plan view, the bulkhead jogs behind the stairs, and then this section of low-lying bulkhead would hold in that last stair.
And the bottom is located where? How 2 feet down, 3 feet down? let's say at a high.
Just below mean high water. So our top of bulkhead is at 8, and it's just maybe about 3, so about 5 feet down.
And the functionality of that would be for what?
The intent was for the public to enjoy that space. That they can literally sit in those steps as they do outside the Maritime Aquarium now. Get closer to the water.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. No, thank you.
Not for physical access into the water.
Correct.
Okay, unless there's more on that, the next point that came up on the memo, which I don't know if Craig, we need anything from you on, but was simply on there was a coastal site plan application form, and then there was an assessment report, and there appeared to be an inconsistency in that the assessment report listed a handful of things as positives, which the application form could be construed as listing as an adverse impact, and that was, I guess, just a little confusion on our end because the application form asked for sort of potential impacts, and this was a positive one, and we had checked it, but it could be read as negative, so we've revised the form so that it's clear now. But I don't think that substantively didn't change anything. It just cleared up a misunderstanding.
Yeah, just to be clear for the record, we provided a coastal area management assessment, and we found either no impact or positive impact on certain parts of the review requirements, like water quality, positive impact, right? And the Norwalk standard form has columns for applicable and not applicable. So a few of there are a few check boxes on the applicable side, and that was somehow construed to mean that they were potential impacts when really they were positive impacts.
Thanks. So then the next, so then moving off of the memo from the planning and zoning staff into the deep memo that we received today. So, we obviously haven't done a formal response because we just got it, but we were, happy to see that Deep found much of the project to be positive. Notably, they expressed no problem with the mass or size of the development. No, they noted that the stormwater retention and treatment proposed for the site was a positive, along with the increased public access, the boat slips, and the inclusion of a new additional water dependent use. And they really didn't have any issue with the complete redevelopment of the site in the scale that was proposed. The one and only concern they raised was with respect to locating housing units on this site, because they'd be located in the AE zone, and because Water Street has a history of flooding. So we don't dispute it's in the AE zone, that the housing units. We don't dispute that Water Street has a history of flooding, but we disagree with Deep in that we don't believe locating apartments at this site will actually pose a hazard to life, which is what the criteria is. And so I'll just tick through a few of the reasons we disagree with that sort of conclusion, and then others from the team can jump in if I've missed things, and certainly any questions you have we'll answer. First, just so we're clear, based on the Deep memo, if it was up to them, we could simply swap out those residential units with retail, personal service, office uses in exactly that same mass footprint in bulk. And we don't believe the difference between more office and retail and the limited number of housing units proposed create any increase in risk of life or property. In fact, that residential use is not nearly as sort of a dense a use as the retail or office. Office would have far more people in the same volume of space as the residential use. We also have proposed an emergency management plan that will provide notifications to all residents in the event a flooding event becomes likely. And as we've sort of experienced on Water Street, their flooding tends to be predictable without a history of sort of life-threatening flooding occurring on Water Street. There's always ample advance warning that a large storm or tide is coming. And we have a notification system in place for residents to alert them in advance of any significant flood event. Second, since Deep began their review of this project, we coordinated with DPW, and as Craig Flaherty was just talking about, we've agreed with the Department of Public Works that we'll fund the design and provide the materials for a backflow preventer on the Water Street outlet pipe at 130 Water Street. And that we believe will meaningfully reduce the frequency of flooding on Water Street. Again, that doesn't happen without this project, but it does with it. Third, the entire project is designed not only with sea level, is designed with sea level rise in mind, right? The base flood elevation in the AE zone is 12 feet. Yet you just heard me tell you that the habitable space we're proposing will be at or above elevation 19. That's 7 feet above base flood elevation. It's 5 feet even above Norwalk's regulations. There's also that expectation that the city may raise Water Street. Again, the project is designed to be easily adapted to an elevated Water Street. And the other thing to another thing to keep in mind, I'll share with you. Share with you again. So did that screen come up for you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So on Water Street, if you look, it's kind of a little hard to tell, but many of these lots, you see this lot doesn't actually make its way to the waterfront, stops short, but it's on the water side of Water Street. Same with here, same with here, another lot, another one, another one, another one, another one, another one, and then it's another one here, and same with all down here. So you've got all of these lots on Water Street that don't make their way to the waterfront. So on those lots, you're going to not get any memo from DEEP on any of these things. It's not going to come in front of the Harbor Commission. And the city has sort of universally approved residential developments within the AE zone and right up on Water Street. There's one across the street from us. There's one that was approved earlier this year at 71 Water Street. And so we're sort of no different. We're right here is our lot. And again, as I mentioned, the residential piece is the very front part on Water Street. If this lot were already sort of subdivided, it wouldn't even come to you on the residential piece. So we don't think that we're out of line with what's sort of existing practice and what you'd see normally from DEEP or from the city for just that we're such a large lot that we touch the water, even though the residential portion is fairly far removed.
Adam, can I interrupt you for a minute? No, we would get a CAM application if within that area right there, because we do review applications within 1,000 feet from the waterfront.
Yeah. So you might get it. If we probably are within 1,000 feet.
Yeah, well, you are,
So
and we would get that.
It's within the coastal boundary area and requires a coastal site plan review. And as a matter of practice, the applications for coastal site plan review, even those that are not directly on the water, are provided to DEEP for advisory comments, just as this application.
This application is, that's correct.
So it's not correct to say that it's not something that the commission would review or that DEEP would review.
Well, I can tell you that if you look through the files for coastal site plan applications, I've done it. This is probably my 5th this year. The last 4 that didn't touch the harbor, not one received a memo back from DEEP. It's not that it may not go to them, but they're not going to respond to it.
They may not see issues that they feel are significant.
Yeah. There would certainly be a coastal application. I don't disagree with that.
But the commission itself has been diligent enough to review all those applications that have come within the harbor, the coastal management area.
Yeah.
All right. No, I just wanted to, okay.
And also on this, I'll show you. So the light or this darkish blue here is the marine commercial zone. That's our zone. So as a reminder, we're not asking for any kind of a zone change, any text change. We're not asking for a special permit. We're not asking for any extra density. We're asking for specifically what's allowed as of right on a site plan application in the marine commercial zone. This zone, I mean, various forms of it have existed for years, but the marine commercial was, created about 18 months ago when the new zoning regs went through, completely rewriting the city regs. The zone, as you'll see, is not entirely, but about 90% of it is the water side of Water Street. That is the zone, and that zone specifically allows this residential density. It's hard to say that this was not, contemplated as an acceptable density on the water side of Water Street when the zone is that's exactly what the zone is. And for comparison's sake, the green, which abuts us here, the density allowed in those zones is about 4 times what we have. So when this zone was created, it was limited to 4 times less density than what's allowed across the street because it's on the waterfront. And so we're keeping in line with that at 4 times less density than you have on the other side of Water Street because we're in that marine commercial zone. And so I think it's hard to say that this is the wrong amount of residential density when it's specifically designed to be significantly less than the neighboring parcels and for the waterfront on Water Street. So we think that using a small portion of the site that again is furthest away from the water for 4 times less density than is allowed across the street, built 7 feet above the AE guidelines, it's not going to pose a threat to the lives of the potential residents. And that's the bulk of our response to the deep memo. There was, I think I'll just move on. There was a couple of other points made at the last meeting for us to address. There was some discussion about a tenant at the site at the last meeting using a portion of the site to store and transport fireworks, fuel, gas, and hazardous materials. That was news to me as the lawyer. Those uses are not allowed under the agreement between ownership and that tenant. They're problematic from a liability, environmental, and insurance perspective. And there aren't permits in place from the city or DEEP for those uses. And so it's a problem for us with the pending application. And so I expect that those uses are now gonna cease on that site no matter what happens with this application. Now, luckily, the tenant does have other property, and there are some other sites within and outside Norwalk capable of handling those uses if the tenant wants to continue them. As far as water dependent uses on the ground floor of the office building, that I know that's come up about what we intend to do there. I think, Henry, do you want to just talk about what your discussions have been so far on that?
Sure. Henry Conroy from Spinnaker, and thank you, Adam, for going through all of that. So we've had some questions. What would be an appropriate water dependent use? We've had a lot of discussions with different potential tenants to occupy the space. Some of those uses include, and which I discussed previously, a kayak rental facility, potentially a motorboat rental facility that could participate in using the dock slips. There's been discussion of if it could work, a hatchery that kind of tied into the oystering facilities within Norwalk and some of our local oystermen that they could use as nutrient and food that could then be deposited into the sound, as well as an educational facility tied into that. So we've been actively seeking what would be the most successful and useful water dependent use at that space. We hope you can appreciate that we haven't secured any leases or legal commitments to the space at this point because we don't have an approved site plan application. But we're actively trying to ensure that we have something that I think as members of the Harbor Commission and stakeholders in our waterfront would see as beneficial and satisfy the desire to increase water dependent use on the waterfront where it is limited in Norwalk.
Thanks, Henry. Another question that came up was about contamination at the site. And just to be clear, this is not a Transfer Act site. However, soil testing and remediation will be conducted as necessary through a soil management plan based on site excavation. If the property is redeveloped, if there's no redevelopment, then there wouldn't be any remediation. There were questions about public access hours, and we haven't 100% firmed those up, but we expect that that's going to be in the vicinity of dawn to dusk. So fairly broad public access hours, but they certainly won't be 24/7. Again, I think we said it before, but we are committed to having transient slips for the boating community. And think that the project is consistent with the harbor management plan. Hope that you will support it. I think those were our only remarks, but obviously you folks may have questions for us.
You're muted, John.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
There you go.
Any commissioners have any considerations?
So transient slips, would you be charging for those slips? The transient
Yeah.
boaters?
Likely some sort of a fee structure. DOCWA is a common system that's used for dock holders so that they could, do a rental time for slip.
You want me to make a comment, John?
Yeah, all right. Let me hear, where are we here? Okay. Yeah, I mean, the commission's charge is basically to maintain our, marine commercial zone as much as possible for our boating community, not just for storage of boats, but also storage of docks, which are removed from the water during the winter months. Anyway, no, Jeff, you wanted to?
Maybe just before we start the discussion with leading to a recommendation, is just to make clear what this process is about. And the Harbor Commission doesn't approve anything in this process. It doesn't have a regulatory function to approve or deny. The regulatory function is with planning and zoning. Commission's role is to review it, provide recommendations and comments relative to the harbor management plan. Harbor management plan doesn't have a guidebook or a set of standards to apply. It involves judgment of the commission. And the key term here has to do with the recommendation of the Harbor Management Commission. Because if the commission does not make a favorable recommendation, then a 2/3 vote, as we all know, is by the approving agency is necessary to approve it. But it's not the Harbor Commission's responsibility to apply the zoning regulations. Of course, if it was inconsistent, we point that out. It's to make recommendations and to see whether it can make a favorable recommendation or not. And some of us, dating ourselves, were involved when the Marine Commercial District was first established in the late 1980s. I think it was 87 or 88. And when that was established, the purpose of it was to maintain the waterfront for marine commerce. The residential use, the other use was intended to be accessory uses to the principal site use. And when that was established, that zone was established, not to go on with a history lesson, but if anybody's interested, we have a nice compilation of all the news articles at that time. That was established by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it signified the completion of Norwalk's municipal coastal program, which was again established in accordance with the Coastal Management Act. That zone was challenged by property owners. I forget whether they actually instituted a lawsuit or are about to do it. The Planning and Zoning Commission at that time was separated into a Planning Commission and a Zoning Commission, interestingly, back then. And the Zoning Commission amended the Marine Commercial District to make it more what do you want to call it? Relax the protections of water dependent uses. The DEP then sued the Zoning Commission for violation of the Coastal Management Act. There was a compromise, and the Marine Commercial District, it was the final composition of it was adjusted. But the purpose right from the beginning was not to provide public access or residential development. It was to protect marine commerce and encourage additional commerce. And again, the public access, you've talked about it a lot, and that's really significant. And that's been an issue with applying the Coastal Management Act since the act was established in 1980. Because the definition of water dependent uses includes public access. but doesn't specify, you know, the requirements or the percentage. It's a judgment call. So when we've looked at this, you know, since last month, and we've talked with Deep about the letter that they sent. But the other thing I mentioned too, back then in the late 80s, late 1990s, the principal discussion had to do with water dependent uses. The flood hazard aspect of this was not prominent. Now we have that added consideration, especially with all the talk about resiliency and sea level rise and, you know, the concern about that. So there's two, John and I have been talking, and also with Deep, there's two issues I think that commission needs to consider. One is the aspect of this concerning water dependent uses. And this is clearly the principal site use is not water dependent. And so you designed it to have a public access component that you are presented as making this consistent with the Coastal Management Act. The commission has to make an opinion on that, whether they feel that that's appropriate. I also mentioned with Deep, although they didn't mention in that letter the type of public water dependent use that they would accept or not accept. They didn't express it, but we also talked about reviewing this relative to the intent of the zone, and the intent of the zone is marine commerce. So that's one issue. The other issue, and I'll stop in a minute, that's important, is the flood hazard aspect of it. You know, and with all the talk about resiliency now for sea level rise, and as we talk with, and this is subject to different opinions, but the purpose of resiliency planning, as we talked about, is not to encourage additional development, but to accelerate recovery and to reduce the vulnerability of existing development. Here, clearly, you're putting people in even though it's compliant with the zoning regulations, into a known flood risk area. And the commission has to make a decision whether they can make a favorable recommendation on it. And we heard that, you know, an attorney we know in another town make the argument in response to the issues we're talking about now is, the roads flood, but the development will be flood, you know, to the highest flood resiliency standards, and the residents can stay in their units until the floodwaters go down, which is an interesting argument. But those two issues, the impact on future water dependent uses and relative to the purpose of the zone, and also the issue of knowingly putting additional development in the flood hazard areas, those are the two issues, in our opinion, that the commission has to grapple with. And given those issues, can they make a favorable recommendation on this? But that's my talk about it. But it's really interesting what happened. In a way, we're going back to history, back in 1997 to what was it, 1987 to 89. I'm sorry, I lost my ability to count. But it's very interesting, and the Harbor Commission at that time was supportive of the marine commercial zone, again, for the purpose of maintaining maritime commerce. Yeah. So, thanks, John.
Well, again, with regard to the application, so as I said, our main focus, and as far as our harbor management plan is concerned, is the maintenance of marine commercial zone, and certainly determining whether there's a safety hazard with regard to the population density in that particular area. And I realize what the POCD has mentioned, but the harbor management plan certainly calls for again preservation of marine commercial zone as well as compliance with the Coastal Management Act.
Deep determined that this stated that this is not consistent with the Coastal Management Act.
Yeah, that's in the letter from Deep. Have the commissioners that are here read that? I know that it just came in today.
Yeah.
Was that emailed to us? Was that the one, that email we got just before the meeting?
Amelia emailed that earlier. Yeah.
I think I'd like to just point out one disagreement that you guys can see. See if I can share. Do you have the marine commercial definition up in front of you?
Yes.
So I'll let you read it and come to your own conclusions as to what this says, but I want to be clear. This is the zoning describes the purpose of the main commercial zone, and this is the purpose here, which I don't think is exactly what was described to you earlier. That may have been the original intent, but it's not the current intent.
It says, yeah, the retention of existing boatyards, marinas, and recreational commercial boat fishing, but enterprise is essential to ensure that the navigational channels and to preserve Knoxville. The proximity of the active navigation channels provide access to the side. Now, the main intent of the construction at 108 Water Street is certainly mixed function. Is not certainly maintaining what they talked about. You do have a marina.
Well, it's a mix, right? You get a marina, you get the public access, you get all types of water dependent uses. You certainly lose a little on the commercial side. But yeah, that's what it says. I mean, I don't need to fight with you about it.
I certainly understand that, and the thing is, and again, there's no guarantees as far as once the operation goes into full force, whether any marine commercial operation would be able to use that location. As far as will have to be redesigned. I mean, you mentioned that you're going to be putting that in or allowing that to happen, but what provisions are you making to enable let's say a hatchery that you had mentioned? You mentioned a hatchery. You mentioned boat rent, etc.
I can talk to hatchery. Actually, I've interestingly enough had a conversation with some local oarsmen about what would be needed to do that, and provision in the plan would be putting in piping to actually run water from the sound into the hatchery system so that they could grow feed for local oysters.
You have an area that would be designated, or you can use upwellers, for example, under docks.
I won't know. This was at his recommendation of what I would put in. So it was some sort of like a pump system to be able to take some water out of the sound and then bring it into the facility in there where they would use that as feed.
It would have been indoor. It would have been an indoor facility.
Indoor facility, correct?
Because they do have. I know Bloom Brothers are oyster.
Yeah.
They have upwellers that usually exist under the docks. For growing growing shellfish.
Yeah. This was the discussion was we could actually pump the water directly from the sound, and in construction, we'd put sleeves in.
I see.
In the future, hope that they would be able that they'd use the space, and I had some positive feedback, and I thought it would be a really interesting idea. And then be able to bring a boat over, from somewhere else in the sound, come and pick up some of the feed or use. It's a pretty clean use, also very compatible with what we're doing. For having public access, it's not like spilling out into the courtyard.
No.
So I think that was something that we were thinking about as a potential use. I'll also just point out something that Adam said, which I think about in relation to this site, is that, and I understand that there's other things that you have to be considering related to your mission as the Harbor Commission, but for us to be able to acquire a site like this and to develop it, it is not inexpensive. It's we're an at-risk development going through these commission hearings and trying to solve for all of the complications that come with designing a building and complying with all the different regulations. And that's going to be the case with anybody who goes to develop the site into whatever purpose that they want to do. I think, with that being said, what you get out of that is a lot of really great assets that we're proposing to the community and trying our best to comply with all the regulations. And I think that we're doing that, particularly with this public access, that outside of that, I think will be a significant game changer for the neighborhood, for people to be able to go out and, as Keelan pointed out, actually get to touch the water in South Norwalk where that's not really available. But that also comes at the cost of having to do a development that allows us to be able to purchase a property like this that's on the waterfront, to justify those costs. It's waterfront property is not cheap, I guess I would say.
No, I certainly appreciate the concept of the finances involved in that.
Yeah.
We have to come up with a recommendation based on what we currently know on the project.
Understood.
Whether we feel it's in compliance with the harbor management plan, based with the intended use of that, which is primarily office building and restaurant and residential. Along with right now, all we see is probably just actually the marina. Does it satisfy our need for maintaining an overall commercial zone right now?
And also the issues of floodplain development.
Well, that's certainly part of discuss, whether it's certainly safe for like residential planning in that particular area, based on what we know what the current status of Water Street is and how it's juxtaposed to the harbor.
Safe, but is it consistent with the city's goals for resiliency?
Well,
and guiding floodplain development?
Well, that too, yeah.
Thought that the question is, can the commission make a favorable recommendation on the project as it's presented to us, and with consideration of those two principal issues, impacts on water dependent uses and floodplain management?
Yeah.
Can the commission make a favorable recommendation? I think that's the question, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know that. Chris, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Well, yeah, I've been thinking. I mean, I think to some degree, when we participated in the approval, of the new zoning regulations, this is what we knew was coming, and we knew particularly this undeveloped site was in the crosshairs of it. And not only that, the main tenant at this site knew that it was in the crosshairs. That's why he bought a property just down the road. I mean, have we received comment from any of the tenants in that? Does the city have any plan for helping these small businesses relocate? I mean, I don't know if that's for this, certainly not for the proposed developers, but what does the city do for tenants that are evicted because of this type of development? And these are the water dependent, the commercial water dependent users that we strive to protect their livelihood. And then the other thing is, I wish we'd gotten this a little earlier, but the letter from Deep, and I didn't get a chance to read it till just this minute, is that their main point, and I was on the resiliency, I was an advisor on the resiliency task force, so I'm familiar with the issues with Water Street and what the flood issues there are. I mean, everybody's familiar with it, but I'm familiar with the proposed solutions, et cetera. But it is about the dry egress. This is a concept that Deep has, that residential development should have a dry egress. When they put in those new developments across the street, they actually raised, I forget what the road is that starts at Water and crosses Day Street and goes on up, the one beside Ryan Park. They elevated that, and they did some grading work on Day Street, I believe, so that the back of all those residences was above the flood elevation. So all those residences have dry egress out the back. The water may be lapping at the front door, but the back door is good. This development is not going to have that. And I mean, one of the recommendations from that was and certainly my recommendation as a civil engineer looking at Water Street is to get backflow preventers put on those drains. And I know Deep didn't want to do it. I don't know. The issue Deep has is not the installation, it's the maintenance, because the backflow preventers, the flap, whether it's a duckbill one or a swinging door type of thing, those get jammed up with material, with garbage and stop working after a while. So it's not just the installation of it, it's the maintenance of it. And it actually won't be at 108. It's down the street at 130, from what you guys represented to us. So, and it's not the daily flooding, it's the, it's the decade flooding. It's the Hurricane Sandy flooding, which would bring that, I believe it was 6 or 7 feet deep in that location. What that does is that prevents not just egress if people are locked up in their condos. It means there's no egress for emergency vehicles. There's no access for emergency vehicles in an extreme high water event, which I think is the real, which is, you have to plan for worst case scenario. And we know from, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, what the worst case scenario is. It's several feet over base flood elevation that basically isolates the site. And that's Deep's main objection. That's what they found inconsistent. It was inconsistent with that aspect of their plan. So there is no, however you put it, there's no dry egress from this new development. I don't know how much of that is our purview to agree with Deep on that. And I would, I don't know how much we can object to their, the zoning implements of it. They're certainly trading high-end water dependent use. They're trading out low-end, water dependent use for high-end water dependent use. That is, that's a different type of discussion. And I don't know if we can argue against that if we say that, 10 slips is better than, Gary Wetmore's operation. And Gary's not objecting to this because he's moved on. At least I have not heard that he's objecting to this. So, that's my thought. I don't know what our standing is in terms of we don't enforce anything, but agreeing with Deep's assessment in the letter that they wrote to us.
It's not that. It's we have our own charge, basically, Chris, with regard to our opinion with regard to the use of the harbor management plan and how we implement that. Jeff, did you want to?
I might just say, following up on what Chris just mentioned, we have some really exceptional video from the police department and the fire department from a series of storms. I believe it was at the end of 2023. Really interesting video of emergency response.
They had all.
Those are the still photos that we distributed.
That was a still photo. That was in the permit that they sent.
But the emergency response with cars that are stalled out, and this doesn't just apply to this property, but the whole watershed area.
Yeah.
Yeah, although we have had many discussions with police and fire has expressed we've asked them specifically about the flooding, and they have not raised that as a concern. The only concern that was raised through fire was about potentially widening our access drive to accommodate a larger size fire truck, which we've agreed to do. But they didn't have issues with respect to flooding. They recognize it floods, but that was not a concern for them.
Well, I think we need to make again a decision with regard that in its entirety, whether we can make a favorable recommendation from the commission to planning and zoning. And
I do want to just add in, if you don't mind, Commissioner, to address one thing that Commissioner Chris, I can't see the full name, I apologize, but I won't touch on all the flooding. We've gone back and forth on that. I will say that I've personally tried my best to try to relocate any of the tenants that are on the site, including Gary Wetmore, and I believe he'll probably locate to his site down the street from there. The remainder of the tenants who are on the site, it's mostly boat storage actually that's there. And most of those boats are actually Ted O'Neill's. They get dropped in the water in row 8. And so at the very least, a lot of those can move to an inland operation without affecting him negatively, and he's not actually using the site for to drop the boats in the water. He's just storing.
Is that coastal you're speaking about? Ted O'Neill is who?
He's All Seasons Marina.
All Season, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant.
So, but we do our best to try to help relocate any of the tenants. So I don't know if the city's going to be involved in doing that, but we certainly are, as just people who not only are we developers in Norwalk, our office is right down the street from here, so we're very involved in trying to be good community members.
One last thing, John, we talked about the marina slips, but it's my understanding that when reviewing the water dependent component of an upland development project, the marina slips themselves aren't significant. It's the upland facilities that would be supportive of those marina slips. So just the boats in the water, if there's no upland support facilities, those really don't count as the water dependent component of the development project to make that development project water dependent. But that's my understanding. But absent the upland support facilities, the marina slips are nice, but they don't count as the water dependent component of a big development project. Of a big development project. But anyway, that's my understanding. I'm subject to correction if that's not right. But we have talked about that with Deep as well.
All right. Well, Jeff, we have what, 5 commissioners here?
We do.
Yeah. So we need to come up with a recommendation for planning and zoning. Anyone would like to make a motion? Whether we can consider this as a favorable or do not make a favorable recommendation. Mr. Panther.
Now we're into.
You're muted.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a point about dry egress because I think it's pertinent. So you're right, there's no dry egress onto Water Street, but an interesting concept in this plan is that there's a concept of egress courts, right, where you get 50 foot away from the building and you're safe from a fire. Now, for those, we don't have enough space to accommodate the offices for that, but the residential, which is a hazard, can escape to an egress court, which is essentially that area, that large planted area that facing the water. So there is safe harbor 50 foot away from the building, which is an egress component.
That's an interesting
I
point. You know, I
have to run the math and do all the numbers, but that is one egress concept that's available to us that will keep people safe away from a fire in the residential building. That number is 50 feet.
That kind of aligns, and I'll share an exhibit, Craig Flaherty with Redness and Mead. Speaking a little bit to Commissioner McDonald's recollection of the project at Day Street and Raymond Street. So when those kind of 3 blocks were developed as a part of a affordable housing project, they needed state money, and in order to get that state money, they needed to indicate some form of dry egress. But what they did, and what's apparent on this kind of rainbow exhibit, is they elevated the intersection of Day Street and Raymond to elevation 12. That's a kind of dark royal blue is elevation 12. That would be above flood. They did not elevate the remainder of Day Street or the remainder of Raymond Street. That light green you see there is between elevation 7 and 8. So they provided an exit to get out to the street and an area of refuge, but they did not provide dry egress to areas outside of the floodplain. That was found to be adequate for that development to proceed at the time, because any single development can only control within its bounds, and it controlled 3 sides of the intersection at the time, I believe, and so was able to do this, but left for the future the city or some other effort to elevate the streets to provide that dry egress. And we're very similarly doing the same thing. The only guidance document we have is the resilience study. The resilience study talks about elevating Water Street, and we've done what we can in our project to be prepared for that future that the city may be planning. And that's really all that we have the ability to do as a single lot.
I'd like to say something here. I'm Lori Jones, a commissioner, is that I am struggling with the facts of compliance with the harbor management plan that that the uses do comply with planning and zoning regulations, to my understanding. There is an increase in public access. There is an improvement in stormwater management, and standards are in place thinking ahead to flooding situations. So in my understanding of this project, it does, it is in compliance with the harbor management plan. I understand Jeff Stebbins' points that historically, that we do want to protect marine commercial, actual marine commercial. But I see a lot in this project that is supported by the harbor management plan.
Interpretation.
That's certainly, no problem. Yeah, one interpretation I would read, in any event, we need to come to a recommendation based on what we've heard tonight and based on what we know from the, again, previously stated harbor management plan, what we do as a commission. Anyone want to make a statement, whether would we find the application either make a recommendation that we support or we do not have a favorable recommendation on the commission. All those that find the application either consistent with the harbor management plan and we can make a favorable recommendation, let's have a vote on that. All those say we can make a favorable recommendation, you can raise your hand. Does the commission now want to make a recommendation as far as unfavorable recommendation?
Not unfavorable.
Can't make a favorable recommendation, rather, in the current status of the plan. I mean, the current status of the application. Any comment?
Seeing that I'm chair, I'm not going to vote. Not going to make a motion. So that would be one of the other commissioners, either yourself or Lori or Chris.
Or chairs can vote, sir. They can.
Well, if there's a tie. And there's only 5 of us.
That's correct.
So John, did you just make 2 motions? I think when you make a motion, you need a second and it needs to be a more formal process than that.
Yes, I'd like to see whether we can make the commission would like to make a favorable recommendation or.
Okay, I'll second that favorable recommendation.
All those in favor?
So hold on, John, you made a motion for a favorable recommendation.
What the motion is that the proposal.
No, it's not. Lori.
Does the commission wish to make a favorable recommendation for?
The motion is either consistent or inconsistent with the harbor management plan.
That's correct.
So is it consistent with the harbor management plan?
Does anyone?
Well, I guess my question is the egress issue consistent with the harbor management plan, or is it not part of the harbor management plan? Or is it not covered under the harbor management plan?
Again, Chris, it's not. There's not a specific standard. The plan has a policy to improve. I have to read it, but reduce the adverse impacts of coastal storms and erosion and protect public safety. So it's up to the commission to determine whether that policy is in effect achieved by this project. So it's not. It's a judgment call, and then it question of whether you can make a favorable recommendation given that the plan doesn't tell you what to do. And Marine Commercial District, the policies are to protect existing marine commerce and water dependent facilities. And so whether this is consistent with that, again, it's a judgment call.
Okay. No, I appreciate that.
Okay. So,
well, Lori, did you make a motion, Lori?
No, Dr. Pino made the motion, but if you'd like me to restate it.
All right, restate it and we'll make a second on that. Yeah.
So Dr. Pino has made the motion that the proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan. I am seconding that motion.
Okay. No, Lori, I wanted to the commission.
Okay, sorry.
whether the commission can make a favorable recommendation. All right.
So Lori can make the motion if she wants to. She doesn't have to second your motion.
No.
Any member can make a motion from the floor.
All right, so you want to make a recommendation that the application is, we can make a favorable recommendation.
I
So
will tell you
so-
that's not a motion, but go ahead.
No,
So I-
Lori, do you want to make a motion?
Oh, do I want to make a motion? I will make a
Yes.
motion that I thought I did. I will make a motion that the proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan because it increases public access, it improves stormwater management, it is and compliant with the uses of planning and zoning, and has standards in place to improve flood conditions through in the installation of working with DEP on backflow preventers, not DEP, Department of Public Works. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it if we can add the concerns raised by Deep about the dry egress. Just
About egress.
that is a concern.
I agree with that. Dry egress is definitely a concern. So do you want to amend your motion, Lori?
Yes, that we add our concern about dry egress.
Okay.
So I'll second that full motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we need a
Yeah,
vote. All those in favor?
all those in favor of that particular motion?
Aye.
And Commissioner Remsen, can you raise your hand or show yourself whether or not you're not, or just unmute?
I agree.
You agree. Okay, so you are in favor of that motion.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Not in favor?
I'm going to vote negative. Can you make a favorable recommendation?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pinto. So that is 3-1. I don't have to vote, of course. So, okay. Oh,
Okay,
motion moves.
we'll move forward with that then. We will get our recommendation to planning and zoning.
Thank
Ready?
you all very much for your time. We really
Okay.
appreciate it.
For your time.
Thank you.
Okay. The next application is 66 Cat Pasture. That was now been on hold again because the applicant has not been had not completed that revision of that, and also there's a couple other issues that they had raised. So they're putting this on hold, so we will not discuss 66 Cat Pasture Beach Road. The next application is 15 Seabreeze Place. This is an application that was submitted by Mr. Hiltz. Mr. Hiltz, I don't believe, is here this evening. The applicant, this David Kutcher, proposes to remove a 14.5 section of pierhead and unauthorized pierhead extension, timber platform and boat lift. The proposed installation includes a 32-inch by 25-foot aluminum ramp, an 8-foot by 20-foot timber floating dock, anchor and stop pilings and float stops. The work will be performed from a barge with materials delivered and debris removed by water, and new components will be installed from the barge and by workers on floats, and the barge access time to high tide to avoid any grounding of those barges. And as I pointed out, the applicant is Mr. Hiltz. Anyone have any?
That's been issued.
John, did you see Mr. Hiltz's email?
Yes, I'm sorry. The applicant, this is an issue that COP has been issued by Deep, which
Yes.
I certainly have an issue with, because we received that application on the same day that we had our commission meeting in July. And the whole idea was that we would be able to review that at the next commission meeting, and Deep went ahead and issued the COP there. So,
But the issue, John,
Yeah,
is
we're-
that the original application was dated a couple weeks before
Yeah.
the commission's meeting.
yeah, the
which-
application was,
which-
yeah.
Which leads you to believe that it wasn't submitted to the commission at the same time it was submitted to DEEP.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be correct.
Yeah.
So I think we need to discuss this with
That
DEEP.
we certainly did.
Because by submitting it to the Harbor Commission, the day of the meeting, it could not be placed on last month's agenda. And there would be a logical anticipation that the DEEP would approve it before this
Yeah,
month.
that's the problem we have. The application came in, and Amelia, correct me if I'm wrong, was submitted to DEEP on July 15th. And we did not get it until July 23rd,
The day of the meeting.
day of the meeting.
So I think we should
So-
just discuss it with DEEP and.
Well, that
talk
will
about the
certainly do.
importance
The importance of getting a timely application to us here. That's correct. All right, so
Or before DEEP makes a decision on a COP application, they ask the Harbor Commission if the commission has any comments on it.
Yeah, so we can speak with Deep, but needless to say, it's been signed off on.
been signed off on, yeah, so, but that's an issue we have to pick up with DEEP for future applications.
Right.
Certainly will do that with Sue Jacobson. Fourth item on the list is planning and zoning text amendment. Sound Communities at 79 South Main Court. The applicant, Sound Communities, is proposing a zoning amendment that would allow the construction of a pocket park along both sides of the main ingress and egress drive into the property in lieu of complying with current zoning requirements and continuous building frontage and through lot restrictions. If anyone has you seen that amendment, that I would make recommendation that we have no comment, or we don't find any inconsistency with the harbor management plan on that. No objection to that change. Putting a pocket park on either side of the building is just, as I said, to allow public access, not public access, but residential access to that side without going completely up to the street end itself. So it certainly would be a beneficial effect as far as we're concerned, in that we certainly had no comment for that application that amendment to be made. That's my recommendation, if anyone would like to comment on that. All those in favor of no objection?
Well, I'll second it if there's a motion, but yes, I have no objection.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we would,
Go with-
need a motion.
Right. The motion being that we have no objection to the amendment to that text amendment by
Mhm.
Sound Communities.
Okay. Chris, are you going to second that?
I second that.
All those,
Great, thank you.
aye,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Remsen, okay,
Aye. Yep.
great, thank you. Opposed?
Oppositions,
Okay,
all set.
passes.
Okay, the last application is at Gregory Court. 5 Gregory Court, is it 5 Gregory Court? I believe that. And this,
Yes,
the applicant, Joseph Curno, is an architect who I guess is here with us this evening. Yes. On behalf.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and this is on behalf of the owners, Jeff and Isis Kaiser. Nuams proposes to demolish an existing 2-story residence and detached garage located on the subject's property. These structures will be replaced with new 2.5 story residence. The new construction will comply with FEMA regulations for required flood elevation. A front yard stormwater retention system will be developed to manage the runoff and enhance site sustainability. All required erosion and sediment control measurements will be implemented and maintained throughout the demolition and construction. And then lastly, the existing water dependent uses on the property will remain unchanged and are not part of this particular proposal. I've certainly read through the proposal and I certainly, the applicants, I'm sorry, did the commissioners have a chance to review that? Chris, did you see that?
Which was the address for this?
It's at 5 Gregory Court. That was sent around to us.
I glanced at it. I did see them.
Yeah.
Then it came around. I don't have any comment.
No, I didn't have any, but Mr. Coonan, would you like to address any of the points that you'd made in that application with regard to water runoff, stormwater control, et cetera? I mean, as far as I saw from my standpoint, that you've actually improved the the condition in that area and had all the safeguards in place with regard to safeguarding any debris, anything getting into the harbor, instead of protecting the harbor from any construction material, and also being FEMA.
Yes. Yes, you're correct. I'm Joe Cugno, Cugno Architecture. You're correct. We've done a engineered system that will be in the front yard of the property that will be handling all of that runoff. We've also have storm vents that will be placed around the perimeter of the new crawl space for the new raised structure. We're putting the new house essentially in the same spot it was. We're not going any closer to the water, and maintaining all the plantings that are currently there, which are fairly recent. So yes, pretty much what you stated in our application is exactly what we're doing. We're actually improving a lot of the conditions that are there. We're even, as part of comments that I've been dealing with Amelia in a review that she did, where we've even converted the driveway into a gravel driveway with pavers to eliminate the asphalt driveway that was originally proposed.
So, in lieu of the fact that, sorry, based on the fact that you have improved certainly the drainage, and improved decreased the amount of, actually increased the amount of decreased the amount of impervious surfaces, I've mentioned, and all the necessary FEMA compliance, et cetera, for flood elevation, I certainly have no problem making a recommendation that we find the applicant sort of consistent with the harbor management plan for those regards, with regard to maintaining effluent off the property, maintaining security as far as the water drainage, et cetera, and also minimizing the amount of runoff into the harbor.
Because it will result in a significant improvement.
It does result in
stormwater
significant improvement in
conditions in the
stormwater
harbor.
conditioning in the existing condition. That's correct, yes. Anyone like to maybe second that recommendation? All right, Lori.
I'll second that. Yeah.
All right, all those in favor? On that?
Aye.
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 This,
Aye.
Okay,
Remsen?
everyone's in favor?
Aye. Yep.
Great, thank you. So I'll get that letter out very shortly with our recommendation.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That ends our application review.
Okay,
All right.
there you go. Now it's just us. Okay. Next on the list, let's see, we have reports. There is nothing from Chairman Kibbe, Shellfish Commission. Steve, I see that you are here. Steve.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Vice
you have the
Chairman. Can you
floor.
all hear me?
Yes.
You copy me? Thank you so much. So yeah, not much of a report. Our only new business for our last meeting was centered around an inquiry regarding derelict oyster steaks, and perhaps those that weren't derelict in terms of being a hazard to navigation. This info was channeled, this inquiry was channeled through the Marine Unit, and Sergeant Bisegli has handled that. So that's really all we had going on in terms of anything new last month. So actually this month. So anyway, we meet again right after the holiday. I don't believe we have received this 108. Looking forward to talking about that amongst our commission as well. So I don't have anything further. Everybody enjoy the holiday weekend and eat Norwalk shellfish for Labor Day.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff Stedman. Consultant Stedman.
There we go. There we got. We're on.
All right, well, I don't know how to cut this short, but there are many things, in my opinion, that are of interest to the Harbor Commission that are now ongoing. One has to do with the Norwalk River watershed-based plan. And the consultant is getting to the point, again, I mentioned that the policies of the plan are being updated. They talked about a tentative date for a public meeting to discuss those policies. That would be on September 13th. It's a Saturday. It's still subject to discussion. Yeah, interesting going back to see when the commission had a integral role in the development of this project, and in my opinion, should have an important role in what's taking place now. 1997 and 1998. Maybe that's why I confused the marine commercial dates with 87 and 89. But the commission, we prepared displays of photos and maps at the public information sessions. 97, there were 3 meetings to discuss the work on the plan. 1998, there were 3 meetings to discuss the adoption of the plan. Dave Donovan was the chair of the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative Water Quality Committee at the time. The importance of understanding the ecological relationship between the watershed, the river, and Norwalk Harbor is undoubtedly a responsibility that the commission can proceed with. It was interesting. I had a chance to talk with former State Senator John Atkin. I don't know if you know him. At the time, he was the president of Save the Sound. And we worked on all of the public informational materials and organized those public meetings with the Harbor Commission, of course, being involved. And they were very well attended. Now the interest is, the last meeting of the Watershed Initiative, there was a handful of people, maybe 10 or so. And so the question is, how much interest is there in the community? And what can we do to try to advance that interest or improve on it? Also, so just thinking ahead too, when we talked about 3 areas of policy interest that might be expected from the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission. And the first has to do with stormwater management in the watershed, and having a policy that promotes stormwater mitigation measures in highway infrastructure, roadways that drain into the river. And I'm thinking also about the Route 7 Merritt Parkway project, which we also discussed at the last initiative meeting. The other thing is with all the goals of development and the emphasis on new housing development, to have a policy that those development goals don't supersede or diminish goals for environmental protection. And then the third goal gets back to, what is the purpose of resiliency planning? Is it to promote development in the floodplain, or is it to do what many people think is the proper thing that it is supposed to do? So looking ahead to September 13th, we talked about the Maritime Aquarium being the venue for this, but we don't know yet. So we'll put some displays, watershed maps, and photos that I hope people will enjoy. And then related to that is the Route 7 Merritt Parkway project. And it's interesting, we just talked about the 5 Gregory Court project. So the increase in impervious surfaces that are going to be a result of that development project have to be mitigated in terms of stormwater runoff. But when we look at the plans and the presentation of the Merritt Parkway and the Route 7 project, there's no reference to stormwater management. Maybe we just missed something, but that's something to bring up in my opinion. And we did at the last Watershed Initiative meeting, and the consultant was quite interested in the previous reports that the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission commissioned with Professor Hart, both on the I-95 bridge project and the Norwalk River stormwater project, which concluded that the principal impacts of water quality from precipitation in the harbor could be related to runoff in the lower urbanized part of the watershed, which includes the Merritt Parkway Route 7 area. So I'm providing those reports to the consultant, and hopefully there'll be an appropriate policy. The Harbor Management Act legislation, working with the 5-person committee, John and I have talked with Mr. Thompson at DEEP, who again committed to working with us, and he's assembling his team to do that. And he said after the Labor Day holiday, he would get back to us and we can organize the first meeting. Manresa Island project, which is again very interesting. We're talking with the DEEP remediation division about this. So what's forthcoming and what has taken place right now recently is that the property owner has submitted what's called a stewardship permit to the remediation division at DEEP. I think it's the DEEP provided us a link to their website. It's hundreds of pages. It's quite interesting. And this deals with the remediation of the property. But as we know, and as DEEP confirmed and know from experience in other towns, the stewardship permit sets forth responsibilities for remediation, when things are to be done and so forth. It doesn't specify the means and the methods for doing it, the remediation. That's to be addressed in separate remedial action plans, which will be forthcoming later. So anyway, that DEEP will publish a notice of this submittal of this stewardship permit application, asking for public comments, and then there will be a public meeting sometime in October to be held at the high school. So DEEP is very cooperative, and we've worked with them in other towns on this. So this again, this is a significant matter of interest to the Harbor Commission. And might also note that in 2013, when the utility company shut down the power plant, there was a public meeting at the police department in the conference room. And then chair of the application committee of the commission, Mr. DeAndrea, he made a statement as to what the commission's role and responsibility is in reviewing, what's going to take place at Manresa Island in the future. It's a very good statement. We can share that with everyone, but nothing's changed. The commission's role and responsibility is the same now as it was there. And there's some other things I won't get into now. Also, we talked about a federal dredging project in Norwalk. And we've worked with the Corps of Engineers, the person who would be a project manager likely for Norwalk for a number of years. Ms. Siligato.
Yeah.
And again, starting the process requires a request to the Corps of Engineers, but it doesn't matter that just an area is less than the authorized depth. There has to be a justification or a proposed justification submitted, why this is important to do. And then she also sent to us that there's something called the Harbor Use Form, which other towns are required to fill out when requesting a dredging process to start. And when we did this again back in the late 90s, and it's a substantial bit of work. We did a survey of all the marinas and all the water dependent uses, because we needed to talk about the number of boats, the size of the boats, whether they're commercial or recreational, the draft of the boats. It's a significant effort to do that. So we have to figure out how to proceed with that.
Along with barge, they wanted us to we give them barge traffic as well.
The important thing is what's the justification and the need. As we know, the Corps is responsible for dredging the harbor, but it doesn't mean they have to do it. It's based on available funds and the application and regulatory process.
So keep in mind, available funds are no longer for federal government.
Well, the other thing, just a couple of things. You probably aware and read about the tragic accident in Stratford a couple of weeks ago, where the young boy fell off the town dock at the boat launching ramp and perished. And it's led to a lot of discussion. The Harbor Commission is responsible for managing that facility. The extent to which there should be a requirement that people on the dock have to wear life jackets, and how to respond to this in the best way. So the Harbor Commission in Stratford is working with the town attorney on this. And for an example, someone had suggested that there should be life rings that are placed at the public facility. But again, if those are stolen and then an accident happens and they're not there, then that increases town liability. So there's a number of issues having to do with that are being discussed by the Harbor Commission in Stratford and officials in Stratford as a result of that terrible tragedy. Just another quick comment. The question interesting about the harbor master's authority and working with the Marine Police to remove abandoned vessels and vessels from persons who don't obey an order of the harbor master. That's under control in Norwalk and works very well with the harbor master and the police department, as it does in Stamford. But there's issues for example, in Norwich and New London about how to accomplish the same expedient or rapid addressing of these problems as we do in Norwalk and Stamford. And there's a discussion with the DEP now to make clear in those communities the authorities that have to be applied. Again, the harbor master has authority to station all vessels, and failure to obey an order of the harbor master is a violation of state law, and the local police department has the authority to enforce state law. There's a bunch of other things. The last thing I might mention, we talked about the public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and there was a direction to limit it to the agenda items. And I bring this up because the other day, someone from the Norwalk River Norwalk River Rowing Group talked to me about the issues they have with the storm drain at Moody's Lane. And I said, come to the commission meeting and bring that up. And when you look at the bylaws of the Harbor Commission state that public comment on not just agenda items, but on any other items subject to the purview of the Harbor Commission are encouraged. So I think that if someone came to the meeting to talk about that storm drain, you know, I don't think you should, you know, dismiss it or not allow it because it's not an item on the agenda.
Well, it's always been allowed previously.
Yeah, so it's not just agenda items, it's matters subject to the purview of the commission. But anyway, thanks.
Well, they could always ask to have that added to the agenda.
Yeah, so those are the things that, but you know, the watershed initiative coming up and also the response to that stewardship permit.
Okay. And Jeff, you said that it was September 13th. Do you have a time?
Well, I have to confirm that that's even the date. That was a
Oh, okay.
discussed last week. And I've asked if it's been confirmed, but I didn't hear back.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I mean,
right.
you know, years ago, Jeff, the North River Watershed Initiative was highly attended by what was it? Is there 7 communities? Lewiston,
7 watershed.
7
towns,
watershed
including
towns. Yeah,
New York.
it was quite active.
Okay.
You know, and Norwalk really helped set that up. You know, as far as because we were obviously the recipient of everything that comes down that river, and so the main point was that Norwalk certainly should keep a leadership role in that. I guess who is it? Alexis Arquetti? I think she's is she chair?
No, well, as the chair now, Alexis Chirichetti is
She's
chair of the initiative committee.
Right. Yeah. So
Right.
I think we should really, you know, keep our main focus on that.
And what we talked about at the last initiative meeting too, there was talk about recommendations for municipal ordinances and so forth. And someone from, I think, New Canaan and Wilton, you know, said that they have it under control. But another important purpose of the watershed-based plan is increasing public awareness. There's an educational element of it to increase the public knowledge of the watershed. And years ago, there were school groups that were involved. Anyway,
Yeah, sure.
we'll talk about that more.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Let's see. So moving on, I did say that Bruce was not here, but sorry, Sergeant Basigli, do you have anything to add for Harbor Master Lavallo?
Mr. Chair, I certainly need to do it if he does not. Mr. Harbor Master Lavallo was reappointed to.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I received the letter. The reason why I received the letter is that I'm, you know, president of the Connecticut Harbor Management Association, and I get the letters from the governor's office indicating all the harbor masters' recent appointments. So,
okay.
So Mr. Lavallo.
Okay, that's good.
Appointed. Yeah.
Justin, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing specific. I haven't nothing from Bruce or Owen. Just to echo what Chairman Bartusz said about the oyster steaks in the harbor that's been remedied with Norm Bloom, and that's all set. So nothing else on our end.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, mooring and harbor safety. Don't have a lot going on. A little bit. So Dakwa, there were some old visitors and some new visitors coming through, so it's pretty good. Transient moorings, the Marine Unit and the Harbor Master continue to enforce that it's not a free ride over at Sheffield. It's very difficult to do that. I don't expect the Marine Unit to be out there all the time kicking people off or saying, hey, you got to pay. Edwards Marine's got to handle all the float swaps, floats being the buoys. We only have one more to do. There was an issue with and I guess this could be under harbor safety, but we had a longer term mooring, transient mooring customer whose vessel damaged the bridle, and they're going to be billed for that cost because it's up to them to maintain the proper tying of their vessel. And it was not done, so they actually broke free. So going forward, they have to inspect their vessel once a week. The boat was adrift, and thanks to the Marine Unit who yanked them out. I think it was over at Peach Island or somewhere on the flats. So
yeah, it was over on Peach.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a talk with them. The person who's doing or who is on the mooring. Harbor Master boat. The boat was hauled and painted. Amelia, I have requested a copy of the quote because I can't find it, although I do know that I had it. And nothing in the harbor safety other than what I've stated. So the Marine unit came to the rescue, grabbed them, put them on another ball, and we're all set. Okay, that's all I have. Finance, Chris.
Good evening. I'll keep it brief. I'd intended to do the fiscal year wrap up, but I hadn't gotten all the final numbers from Mariana, but I can give what is probably pretty close. So and this is for the city's fiscal year, which is what we report to them, the July 1st to July 1st. We took in $74,282 and expended $60,211. That left us with an annual surplus of $14,000 roughly, and so now as of the end of June, we had about $88,000 cash on hand. So let's keep spending the money that we have, appropriated for the improvements. I know the Harbor Master boat will be its own set of expenses, and that's fine. So we're in very good shape financially. We need to keep fulfilling our commitments to the improvements and the expansion of things so that we can take care of this budget. We did not get a grant from last year, so we are making do with what we have from the previous year, but we have a surplus, so that should not be a problem. In fact, I think we should start talking about other types of improvements and implementations we want to make on another, so one of those I think will be what the recommendations that come out of the strategic harbor plan. I know they looked into, I took two of the staff from Indigo around in, I guess that was probably in June, late June or something. I don't know if I reported this at the meeting, but I took them around, showed them all the street ends and all that. We haven't heard anything else from Indigo. I know several of us are on the steering committee, but we should be getting recommendations this year. We should start thinking about what we actually want to start implementing on the street ends and putting aside some money for that. All right, that's it in terms of finance.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Let's see, plans and recommendation.
Yep, so two quick things to report. We had talked about putting together an onboarding package for new commissioners, and I've taken a stab at a draft of that, which is now in Alan's hands for his taking a look, and then it'll be distributed to the commissioners for your thoughts and feedback, and we'll take it from there, but thought I'd get that project going. And then the second thing is in terms of the harbor management plan, the big chapter, well, they're all big chapters, but one that all the commissioners are responsible for are the policies chapter 3. And so what I'd like to ask Amelia to do at some point in the next week or so is get chapter 3 out to all the commissioners for you guys to take a look and see if you have an opinion on any policies. It's about 50 pages of harbor policies that should be updated. And then there's also chapters 4 and 5 that address the inner and outer harbor policies, which Jeff Mangles has already been pretty thorough on. But I'd like to get that out to the entire commission because we're all responsible. So those are my only two things to report.
Okay, thanks, Lori. Let's see, newsletter website.
I have a question. Well, I don't know if this is a question for Lori, but who's monitoring the east, the new dock at the East Basin or the North Basin or whatever we call it?
That is the Upper Anchorage, I think.
The upper
So
North Anchorage.
the North Anchorage, yeah, North Anchorage. I do think that Alan had some communication with them, so I have not had any communication with them. But
Yeah.
I do know that Alan was in discussion with them. And I know that they put in the area to be able to load, unload. That's what I understand. I
Yeah.
have
I was
not
reading-
seen the new plans.
Yeah, I mean, there was rumors in the spring that they would start as early as this fall.
I do know that all boats have to be out of the city marina September, I think, including dinghies, the end of September, maybe the beginning of September, but I think certainly at the end of September.
Yeah, they haven't updated us on that.
Yeah, you should have got notification, but we can check. I could
Well,
check with
They,
Recreation
they said
Parks.
something in April. That's why, if that's pending an actual construction award, it's part of this a personal, I don't know if I don't think anybody's getting their stuff out of there yet.
Right, right.
And if they want us to do that, they should probably remind everybody.
Yeah, they should. They absolutely should. But I do believe it's the end of September, but I can take a look. Amelia, do you know?
I do not know, but I can follow
Okay.
if you'd like. But it sounds like I guess we'll reach out to Alan first if he said he's been talking to someone, and then if not, we can find out who does have
Maybe
the
we need to reach out to Parks and Record DPW to see if there's an actual construction award, and then encourage them to reach out to slip holders and users of the dock.
Yeah, I could swear a notification went out, but I will find out. That'll be on my to-do. Okay. Okay, so nobody from the newsletter or website, and nobody with water quality. Anybody else have anything?
Yes, Jeff, I'd like to get the commission's review of the letter that we would like to submit on behalf of Tony Mobilia. That was sent around to the commissioners for review, whether we'd like to support, formal proposal naming the East Basin Dock Marina in honor of Tony Mobilia.
Can I make a motion on that? Which would be to table it until we have more of the commissioners here, because I think it deserves the attention of the full commission. It's a big decision.
Fair enough.
Also, other members of the public and also former commissioners have expressed an interest in supporting this renaming, and would be willing to write letters to the commission in support of it.
Well, the commission.
All right, so we have a motion to table this.
Yeah,
so we already
letter, but
have a motion, so we need a second.
This letter is going to go to Mr. Stowers, believe it, yeah, in support of that. So,
Okay, so this is after Chris McDonald. Did I see you second? Okay, you're muted, but you raised a hand, so I'm going to assume that yes, you seconded.
The words you didn't hear was a yes. I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Remsen?
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you, motion passed. Okay.
And I'd like to, is this new business now or what?
Sure, there's no new business
Well, no,
information, but go ahead. Mhm.
Just in interest of certainly time for commission meeting, and I certainly was to confer to Chris and certainly Matt Gifford and also Amelia. I'd like to know whether we could change. I'd like to change the meeting of the application review at least to 2 weeks before the commission meeting. We need time to actually go through and review these rather than taking the time through we did this mainly to change when during the COVID episode, but there's no reason why we have to continue meeting at the same time the commission meeting, but meeting at a later date, perhaps at City Hall, or still have our Zoom meetings, but meeting prior to the commission 2 weeks before, 2 weeks before the actual full commission meeting to mull over these applications as they come in. So as I said, there's a number of issues that we need to respond to and think about, information we want to get back from DEEP and perhaps even from the applicant, but hold a special meeting of the application review committee separate from the full commission meeting.
Yeah, you can do that. You just have to let me know when so I can set up the Zoom meeting because it will have to be a publicly noticed meeting.
Right.
So each
It's
meeting
still-
for
it's still
the
the same
remainder
thing,
of the calendar year will be a special meeting.
Yeah.
And then if you do want to just have that be a regular meeting for 2026, we can
Yeah.
submit a request to get that on the city calendar when we submit the meeting dates for the Harbor Management Commission too.
Chris, how do
So
you-
we'll do that, and then it'll be a regular meeting, and it would be recurring, same day of the week, same time.
Chris, you have any comment on it or what?
No, I don't have any comment on that.
Yeah, it can't, so it would have to be a special meeting this year
correct.
because
For this year.
we voted to combine them.
All
So,
right.
but in 2026 is fine.
Because members of the commission would be, again, the chair as, as a member of, and then the, myself, Chris McDonald and Matt Gifford.
I think that's a great idea, John.
Right.
Because I think that, my understanding, I've only been at part of the commission when application review has been integrated into the meeting.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be so great for the application review expertise to do your work and then come to the commission with a recommendation based on.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, that was the whole idea behind that. As we go back to the old style of reviewing these applications. We did meet certainly a week before the actual commission meeting, prior to that at City Hall and Planning and Zoning office, and I think we should go back to that. We can have time to spread the applications out on the table, look at it, and consider information that's missing, information that we would need, and respond, instead of taking the full commission's time during the meeting.
Okay, so John, just coordinate that with all the commissioners.
Yes, I'll do that.
And then contact Amelia.
I certainly will. Great.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other business? Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn this evening.
Okay, John, who's going to second that?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You take care, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. You
Hey,
too.
Amelia, I'll be calling you. Because I just want clarification on what happens with people, and Don, if you can get that email going with the city. They have set up some remote configuration, so they can help you out that way if you can't make it down to the city.
Okay. I'll get it
All
done
right.
next week or two.
Okay, fantastic.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Yep.